There's a pattern I've noticed with many movie series in that the fourth entry is where things go bad. I've seen it happen to Batman, Superman, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and even James Bond, if we're going by actor. Pierce Brosnan's fourth entry was Die Another Day, which sucked. For Roger Moore, it was Moonraker, which sucked. For Sean Connery, it was Thunderball, which didn't exactly suck, but it still wasn't as good as From Russia with Love or Goldfinger. And now we come to the fourth Bond film starring Daniel Craig. Will it break the fourth film curse or not? Hi, I'm Kevin from the STP, and this is an encore presentation of the 007 Diamond Jubilee. Our story starts in Mexico City, where James Bond foils a terrorist attack during the Day of the Dead festival and steals a ring belonging to one of the perpetrators. Cue opening credits. Back in London, the new M is displeased over the collateral damage from that operation and has 007 suspended. But what he doesn't know is that Bond was following instructions from his predecessor, the one played by Judi Dench, who sent him on a trail of a secretive criminal organization. Bond uses the ring he found, along with the widow of one of the attackers, to infiltrate a meeting of this organization named Spectre. Meanwhile, M and the 00 section are being dogged by a man codenamed C, who is the head of a new private intelligence company. In addition to shutting down M's department, C also campaigns for the formation of Nine Eyes, an intelligence-sharing network of member nations, including Great Britain. What could possibly go wrong? The primary Bond girl is Dr. Madeline Swan, a psychologist and the daughter of Mr. White, the master villain from Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace. For most of her role, she keeps complaining about the way Bond protects her from the bad guys, so her chemistry with Bond starts out rockier, and she doesn't exactly leave the best first impression. I will say that unlike most of his flings these days, Bond does seem to earn his night of sex with her, coming after they fight off Mr. Hinks. Earlier on, Bond has a fling with Lucia Scara, the widow of a Spectre assassin. Being 50 years old during filming, Signora Bellucci is the oldest actress to play a Bond girl. This decision caused some controversy among netizens, to which Craig, himself 47 years old, said he's just dating women his own age. Oh snap! Oh snap! Still, wrinkles aside, Lucia Scara is basically an older version of Severine from the last movie. She's there for Bond to protect, get information from, screw, and forget about. And feminism marches on. Without them. The villain is Franz Oberhauser, the leader of Spectre. He has a backstory with Bond. After Bond's parents died in a mountain climbing accident, Franz and his father adopted him, only to allegedly die later on. I could best describe his portrayal as a cross between Donald Pleasance as Blofeld from You Only Live Twice and Javier Bardem as Silva from Skyfall. In other words, he goes for the subdued menace of the former but cannot quite achieve it, instead ending up a bit quirky and too casual, which stands out especially considering the work he's done with Quentin Tarantino. Herr Waltz seems like he would be more at home portraying someone like Steve Jobs, although to be fair, you could say Apple is basically a real-world evil organization anyway. Just as Silva proved to be the first iconic villain of the post-reboot era, Mr. Hinks could very well be its first iconic henchman character. In many ways, Hinks is reminiscent of Oddjob from Goldfinger. They both have similar physiques, hardly ever speak, can hold their own against Bond, and even their actors are both Asian ethnic Americans with backgrounds in pro wrestling. Although his introductory scene where he kills a fellow Spectre member by jamming his thumbs in the guy's eyes is a little hard to watch. Max Denbigh, aka C, is the head of the Private Joint Intelligence Service. As it turns out, he is in fact working for Spectre, who intends to use the country's intelligence against them. C, as he is nicknamed by Bond, is just a touch snarky and not exactly apologetic about stealing M's job. I could imagine him working out as 007's new boss, if not for the fact that he already got a new one in the last movie. And besides, Ray Fiennes' M is just badass.
And now we know what C stands for. Careless.
The Spectre organization has largely been avoided in the official James Bond film canon due to its ownership dispute between Ian Fleming and Kevin McClory. but you already knew that. Well, it turns out that in 2013, MGM, Danjaq, and the McClory estate finally settled the issue, returning the film rights of the Spectre name to MGM. However, I've noticed that in this movie, no one ever refers to Spectre by its old acronym, Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, and Extortion, so either that wasn't part of the deal, or they just nixed it for the retcon. Q introduces to 007 the Aston Martin DB10, which exists only as a concept car in the real world, and here comes equipped with guns, a flamethrower, and an ejection seat, only to give the car to Agent 009 instead and leave Bond with a watch. To be fair, that watch does have a time bomb inside. That doesn't stop Bond from stealing the car anyway and using it in a chase with Hinks' Jaguar CX-75, another prototype car you will never be able to buy. Oh, and as for the old DB5?
I believe I said bring it back in one piece, not bring back one piece.
No, you said that about the gun and the homing radio, but never mind. The opening credits feature ink and octopus motifs. The octopus has long been a symbol of the Spectre group, with the animal's tentacles symbolizing the insidious reach their activities have all over the world, and nothing else. Hey, I meant don't remind people of tentacle hentai. Ugh. There are also flashbacks to characters from earlier in the Daniel Craig series, like what they did with On Her Majesty's Secret Service, although with far better effects, along with recreations of locations seen later in the film, and some shirtless shots of Bond in between all the silhouette girls, presumably in the interest of equal opportunity fan service. The theme song is Writings on the Wall by Sam Smith. Now, Sam Smith has always struck me as being a technically talented vocalist who wastes his range on the most boring songs, and Writings on the Wall is the most egregious example of this paradigm. The song itself is about standing up to impending doom, but coming from Sam Smith, I don't feel it. He sounds too weak-willed, especially when you compare it to stuff like Tom Jones from Thunderball and even Adele's theme from Skyfall. I don't want to be too hard on the song because it is melodically beautiful and has a few good themes in the lyrics, but I don't know, it's just not something I'd want to listen to outside of this movie. I mean, if I didn't know better, I'd say Sam just wrote and recorded it in one take. At least I think he wrote it. Oh, let me check. See? Hold on! This song was co-produced by Disclosure? The EDM guys? This sounds nothing like their brand of dance music. There's no bass drop or anything. How did this happen? You know what? Screw it. I got something else to show you. The alternative rock band Radiohead also submitted their own title song, simply named Spectre. Obviously, it was passed over for whatever reason, but the band released it themselves on their SoundCloud page. It has the same kind of orchestral ambience of the Sam Smith song, but with an actual drum track, which I'm honestly not a fan of. Its irregular pattern tends to throw me off. And honestly, it's not that much of an improvement on the not boring front, even if it does build up to something musically. I don't know, I guess you have to be a fan of Radiohead in order to appreciate it fully. The one word I would use to describe Spectre is redundant. It tackles a bunch of themes already addressed by previous movies. Most notably, there's the question of whether or not the 00 agents are necessary in today's intelligence climate, which was already answered by the very last movie before this. Although the NSA leaks from 2013 arguably make this discussion more relevant this time around. Apart from all that, there are many plot points from, and other references to, the rest of the series, almost to the degree of Die Another Day. And Spectre doesn't even have the excuse of being a milestone celebration. I mean, who commemorates a 53rd anniversary as a special occasion? And it's not just within the Bond franchise. At a basic level, the plot is virtually identical to that of the recent Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. They even both have scenes in Austria, Morocco, and London to boot. Intentional or not, it sure was savvy of Paramount to move their movie's release up to the summer instead of trying to compete with Spectre in November. Also, I can't help noticing how many funny moments there are in this movie. The highlight of humor has to be the early car chase between Bond and Hinks, where 007 tries and fails to use his car's gadgets, and later on gets blocked by an old man in a Fiat. They stand out because of the more serious portrayal of James Bond during Daniel Craig's tenure, and this very movie is no exception. Arguably, this just makes the humor funnier, as the joke's juxtaposition against the rest of the movie's hard-edged tone offers effective contrast. I don't know about you, but I'd take that over 100 Roger Moore one-liners. Quality over quantity, people.
Throw that down the toilet. Cut out the middleman.
Speaking as a longtime James Bond fan, Spectre left me more confused than anything. The film attempts to retcon into existence a backstory which links all the Daniel Craig entries together when they worked well enough without it. Although I will say the involvement of the Spectre group would make Silva's escape and assassination plot from Skyfall a bit more plausible. But writers, just because you can use the Spectre name to replace whatever you were building up beforehand doesn't mean you should. But all the same, it doesn't exactly bring those other movies down, it just gives the impression that the writers were making stuff up as they went along. So, is Spectre still a worthwhile film? Yes, actually. The action set pieces are brilliant, the big reveal is built up well, and its musings on the role of intelligence in today's world are still relevant. So yeah, the fourth film curse does apply here, sort of. It may be the worst Daniel Craig film, but by no means is it truly bad. All things considered, Spectre scores 75%, a B-.
What do we do now?